The Justice Department set to announce a significant merger enforcement action later this morning. We expect that's the Sprint T-Mobile deal. An email went around, enough people saw that. Separately, the DOJ has now reportedly been in talks with state officials to win support for the merger. A group of state attorneys general filed suits to block the $26 billion deal. For more, I want to welcome Sara Fischer, media reporter at Axios. Ed Lee's here as well from the New York Times, also a CNBC contributor. Thank you guys for joining us. We expected the transaction to get announced yesterday. There was a little bit of a hiccup in terms of the last 24 hours, as it sounds like Makan Delrahim has been trying to get some of these states that wanted to block the deal to turn around and say no. Do we think he's actually going to have succeeded on that front?
I think they're going to put up a little bit of a fight. I mean, we've seen down in D.C., this is a Republican administration. Makan Delrahim is a Republican. These are Democratic attorney generals, and they've been pushing back with this type of stuff. We saw this with the census just last week, and they're winning in court.
Right.
So I would expect them to put up a big fight here, and I don't think this is just going to go over very easy.
So what happens? Is success for him if he gets 5 states to drop the lawsuit? Is that success?
I mean, if you can get a few states to drop the lawsuit, but California and New York are leading the charge on this. They were nowhere near that meeting yesterday that everyone's reporting on. I think that was also a bit of an overplayed headline. The state AGs were there to discuss something separate. The Attorney General, they put out this whole thing about we're going to look at tech platforms, and so there was a meeting. They were convening to do that. And then I think Makan Delrahim was like, you know what, you're here. Can I talk to you about this other thing for a second?
Right.
So there was nothing coordinated about it. There's no good politicking around it. And again, if you're California, New York, you're like, I wasn't part of this thing. We're going to go ahead with we're going to continue to look at this.
Which means that the deal being approved by DOJ means nothing?
It doesn't. There's another hurdle to cross. This isn't it. It used to be you got the 2 big agencies to sign off, you're more or less done. No, the state agencies, it's become a new kind of mechanism of regulation, really.
But how is this going to work on a state-by-state level? They all are going to bring the suit together.
Yeah.
Do they bring it? What state do they bring it in?
New York.
They bring it in New York.
It's being led by Letitia James.
Right, so it's in New York.
It's going to be led by New York.
You're going to have a New York state judge, therefore, dealing with this, which may have their own opinions about all of this. So do you think this deal ends up happening? And can it be blocked in certain states? And then how does this work?
Well, the thing is, if you block it, say, in New York and California, you're effectively done. There's no point in doing it. They know that. It's very strategic. The other sort of specific thing to be aware of is their complaint was based on the FCC agreement to start with. So they haven't seen the DOJ agreement yet. Once they see that, they might amend their suit. If they amend their suit based on the DOJ agreement, that tells you just how far they want to take it.
What does this mean for New York and California, those attorneys general? Do they want a pound of flesh? Do they want to actually block it? What's their end goal?
I think they want to see that a viable fourth player is going to be taken seriously, because if you look at what they're blocking with the FCC, what's new now is that Makan Delrahim is saying, look, we have somebody that's actually going to be viable to compete. What he needs to do is convince them that Dish is going to take this seriously, and that's what's going to take in order to get them to maybe back off this lawsuit a little bit.
Well, but we should look at what is Dish getting out of this, right? So they're going to get this prepaid business called Boost, right? It's about 8 million subscribers. They'll get some spectrum, some more airways. Dish was seen as a potential viable fourth competitor because they already owned a lot of spectrum to begin with that they hadn't been using. So they're like, finally, you actually have some potential infrastructure around.
But if they weren't using the spectrum before, what's to say they're going to use the new spectrum?
Right. But not only that, it actually is expensive to build out the infrastructure to make use of that spectrum. So is there any chance that is Charlie Ergen really going to do that? 8 million compared to when T-Mobile and Sprint merged, it's going to be over 100 million subscribers.
Okay, so help us
really
with this. If you look at the
competitor?
stocks of Sprint and T-Mobile, and specifically Sprint, obviously, it's come up in the past couple of days on expectations that this deal is going to get done. What I don't understand about that is, based on what both of you just said, it almost sounds as if this deal will not get done. I mean, there might be an announcement today. We'll all talk about whatever that is. But if you really think that there's a much larger problem here, whatever we're about to hear later today almost becomes irrelevant, no?
I think shareholders need to factor in the state AG suit. I think that's a real thing. They could end up dropping it maybe, but it's not going to happen right. They're going to take a close look.
In terms of settling, a new settlement, so they'll have today's settlement.
Yep.
What else can they do you think, that would actually move the needle for the states?
I mean, they need to figure out a way that they can convince states that Dish is going to take this seriously. It might be giving them more assets. It might be giving Dish more wiggle room to bring on another financial partner. Whatever it is to convince
Has
Dish.
but have they prevented them from bringing on another financial partner? Is that part of the problem?
I mean, it was held up a few weeks ago. We heard that
Right.
they only wanted to give them a 5% access to a financial partner. Well, this is one thing I was hearing from an analyst in D.C. You're kind of handicapping Dish. If Dish says we might need more investment, but you're saying you can only get 5%, this is going to be a tough thing to bring up with the court. So I do think they have some wiggle room there if they want to bring it back. The other thing I'd mention here, too, is that state AGs were really wanting to have a cable provider or cable company that was going to come in and do this. One thing that we might expect is that they're going to push that hard. We've seen reports that Charter just wasn't involved in this negotiation with DOJ.
Can I
Or
just
the
say
Charter
there's
was
something-
interested, but they
There's
rebuffed them.
something laughable about that idea, because it seems to me that if Charter or Comcast or any of the big cable guys really wanted to get into this space, Macon Delrahim would be back. And by the way, President Trump would be back on Twitter saying this is terrible, the world's being taken over, it's a monopoly.
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me if that was happening. But at the end of the day, if you look at those state AG lawsuits, that's what they want. And so it wouldn't surprise me if they come back to the table and say, look, we're not opposed to this Sprint T-Mobile deal, but we got to get a different partner in there.
Up is down, down is up.
Yeah, and
Something is amiss.
And then T-Mobile could use that to its advantage in a different way. They could bring on another partner or with a bigger capacity.
Ed, thank you. Sarah, thank you. Great to see you guys.